So today we're going to solve quadratics using the quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula is right here, and it is so very important. You've got to know that formula. It's x equals the opposite of b. So we read this the opposite. So x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So I'm going to read that one more time because it is that important. X equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And the reason I say it's the opposite of b is because if b is positive, it turns negative. If it's negative, it turns positive. Okay, so we've got 3 steps to doing this. Okay, first step is to write the equation standard form. Remember, standard form means get it equal to 0. So when I'm looking at this first problem, right now it's not equal to 0, it's equal to x. So I'm going to move the x to the other side of the equation by subtracting it. If I do it to one side, I got to do it to the other. Now when I'm looking at this, there are no like terms, so I'm just going to put the minus x in between, because remember the exponents have to decrease. So I got 2x squared minus x minus 36 equals 0. Okay, so check standard form. That was step 1. Okay, step 2 is to identify a, b, and c. So step 2, I've got to say what a, b, and c are. So remember, it's ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. If you ever forgot that, it's right here at the top of our notes as well. Okay, so a is 2 this time. B is in front of x, so there's an invisible 1. And if I prepare that, I see it's a negative 1. And c, again, I've got to prepare it real fast. It's negative 36. Okay, so that was step 2. Check. And we did step 1 as well. All right, so now we're ready to substitute into the formula and simplify. So this is the meat of the problem. We're going to plug these numbers into the formula. So step 3, our formula is x equals, and when I do the quadratic formula, I like to put all of the variables inside parentheses. So I end up with the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Notice that my division bar goes all the way up to the equal sign, and it's over everything. And this bar has to, the square root has to go over the whole thing. So I'm ready to go ahead and pop things in. So my a of 2 has to go here and here. My b of negative 1 needs to go here and here. And then my c of negative 36 needs to go just one place. So we're ready to pop this stuff in. So I got x equals, it would help if I use the right pen. So x equals the opposite of negative 1 plus or minus the square root of negative 1 squared minus 4. A is 2. C is negative 36. All over 2 times negative 36. Oh, not negative 36. Sorry. 2 times A. And A is 2. Okay, so just double check this. My B's should all be negative 1. So here's negative 1. Here's negative 1. Here's negative 1. So that's good. I need to check that my A's are all 2. Okay, looks good. And then I need to check that my C's are negative 36. And that works. Okay, so I'm ready to start simplifying. So the first piece I'm going to simplify is the front here. The opposite of negative 1. And the opposite of negative 1 I get is positive 1. Okay. I'm going to keep my plus or minus. I'm going to keep my square root, right? But I am going to put all of this stuff that's under the square root into my calculator. So all this stuff is going in my calculator. So while I'm typing this in, notice that I am not typing in the square root symbol. I'm just typing in what's under the square root. Okay, so I know everything that's under the square root is 289. Okay, I'm going to keep my all over, and I'm going to simplify this right here. 2 times 2 is 4. So I simplify in 3 places. I simplify the opposite of b, I simplify under the square root, and I simplify underneath the whole thing. Now this is where I'm going to try to simplify my square root. So off to the side, I'm going to take the square root. I'm going to say square root of 289. Now, first thing I always do is I see if that's a nice number. So square root of 289, hey, that's plus or minus 17. And then I'm going to pop it back into the equation. Notice that it's not going to have the plus or minus, or I'm sorry, it's not going to have the square root symbol on it anymore because I have the square root right here. I notice that it's gone right here. That's my biggest mistake students make. So I get x equals 1 plus or minus 17 over 4. Now really, this is 2 different problems. I've got the plus version of this problem and I've got the minus version of this problem. So let's do the plus over here. So it's x equals 1 plus 17 divided by 4. And we're going to do the minus over here. So x equals 1 minus 17 over 4. So 1 plus 17 is 18. 18 divided by 4 turns into, or I'm sorry, 18, yeah, 18 divided by 4, let's see. I could take a 2 out of both those. So I get 9 halves. Okay, over here I've got negative 16 divided by 4, which gives me negative 4. So for this one, I have 2 answers. My 2 answers are 9 halves and negative 4. Okay, let's see so you can see the whole problem. So there's the whole problem. Remember, we can always check this by graphing. So if I were to graph the original problem, so original problem is 2x squared, 2x squared minus 36 equals x. Oh no, triangle of death. This is where we take the equal sign and we change it to minus parentheses. I should have 2 solutions, negative 4 and 4.5. And if I were to do 9 divided by 2, guess what? There's my 4.5. I did this correctly. Congratulate yourself.